How's it going, guys? In this video, we're going to go over the process of making a deadly spear out of a lawnmower blade. Lawnmower blades are what I call a mystery steel. I really have no idea of the type of steel that it's made of. I assume it's obviously steel and that it's low carbon. I wouldn't want to ever use one of these to make a knife unless it's just a showpiece, but for a spear, that's a completely different story. Throughout history, spears have been made using all sorts of items, all the way from bronze to animal bone and even stone in the more primitive ages. So using this lawnmower blade, even though I don't know what type of steel it is still steel, and it is more than adequate to make a usable and efficient spear. I'm aware that a lot of people watching this video don't have a forge setup like the one in the background, so you can always just skip this part and just take an angle grinder and cut off whatever material you need. And obviously for the people that do have a forge, they know exactly what I'm doing. I'm just stretching the material out and getting a rough shape of the spear. Before you start, you should try to get some sort of template for what you want your spear to look like. In my opinion, the best way to go about doing this is to take a piece of paper, fold it in half, and just draw half of the spear. That way when you cut it out and fold the paper back out, you have a perfectly symmetrical spear. For the people that skipped the forging part and went right to the angle grinder, this is where you'd be at first, after you put your template on the lawnmower blade. There's lots of different ways to take material off this lawnmower blade. You can use different attachments for an angle grinder, which are fairly cheap, or if you have a belt grinder like the one shown here, you can use abrasives to take material off. Even though abrasives are more expensive than most angle grinder attachments, I prefer to use them just because it helps me get a better profile. But everybody's different. If you're fine just using angle grinder attachments, then more power to you. And to be completely honest with you, if you don't have any power tools, you can do all this with a file and a hacksaw. It's going to take a lot longer, but you'll definitely get it done. What I'm doing now is putting the bevels on the spearhead. These edges don't need to be razor sharp. Their only purpose is to help guide the spearhead through its intended target. For heat treatment, all I'm going to say is if you can do it, go for it. But if you can't, don't worry about it. All heat treating a lawnmower blade does is just maybe give it a little bit more edge retention. If you choose to heat treat your spear, you'll notice that the whole thing's going to turn black. All I'm doing now is taking it back over to my belt grinder with a higher grip belt and just getting those edges nice and shiny again. For the handle material, we're not going to overthink this one. This is a DIY project that anyone can make. Go in your garage, find the dirtiest, cheapest, most worn out rake or shovel, and cut that thing off and use the handle for your spear. After you cut your handle, you want to make a groove so you're able to insert the spearhead. Once the groove is made, you can take the handle over to a disc sander or even just use a file to taper the edges. The goal here is just to create a nice transition between the spearhead and the handle. If you're using an old rake or shovel like I am, I highly recommend taking a hand sander and just sanding off the top layer of wood. This step is only really important if you plan on putting a finish on your handle later. For me, I know I'm going to be using linseed oil because that really makes the grain in the wood pop, but you can also use stain if you want. As usual, I'm using JB Clearweld epoxy. This is my choice epoxy. I use it on all my projects. It's rated for 3,900 PSI. It's affordable. You don't have to buy a lot. If this is the only project you're doing, I highly recommend it just because you won't be spending on extra epoxy that's going to end up wasting away in your garage. After the epoxy sets and dries, we can go ahead and put our final finish on our handle. Like I said before, I prefer to use linseed oil. I like the way it makes the wood look, but you can do whatever you want. You can use stain, you can even use paint. I don't care. It's your spear, it's not mine. Do whatever you want. I didn't like the way the spear looked with the tang exposed, so I'm using this twine to wrap around that section. I personally love the way the twine looks on the spear. The whole idea of the spear wasn't to make something flashy, it's a robust, usable spear with minimal material. You can definitely choose to leave your tang exposed. It doesn't matter. If you want to wrap it, you don't need to use twine. You can use a colorful tape. You can do whatever you want. Be creative. This is your chance to really put your mark on this spear. So now that we're finally done, here's the final spear. I really appreciate all of you guys for watching. If you liked this video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Any support you can show to this channel is always greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys.